My name is Ken Renner. I'm a real estate broker here in Austin, a real estate expert, and I've been in real estate business since 1983. So that makes it 35 years I'm going on being in the real estate industry. Bought my first house when I was 19 years old. Scared me to death, but I also got my first real estate license when I was 19 years old. So since then I've closed over $350 million in residential real estate transactions, and a lot of it really, the clients that I get come from, well, repeat and referral, and now next generation. We were talking about generations over there. I'm now selling homes to the kids of people who bought homes from me in the 90s, so that's kind of fun. And so, like I said, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I find it's really good to do a public service presentation to help you all save money. Now, I know I got some people who are interested in investing. We can talk about that. We're going to cover that. There's two parts to this presentation. First is going to be how are you going to be able to save money by being able to protest your property taxes. Okay, so you have the right to protest your property tax. Second part of the presentation is real estate investment tax shelters. So tax shelters that a lot of people don't realize are available to them if they want to become investors. You guys know about your tax shelters that you've gotten come from California. Welcome from California to Pflugerville. There's a lot of license plates. I moved from California in 1993, so I watched this whole town blow up. So anyways, we're going to get into it here and talk about your property taxes. Has anybody gotten their tax bill yet? Are they kind of shocked with what they saw? It's gone up, right? Okay, the tax assessor has some splaining to do because it's some of these tax evaluations are incredibly unfair. So I'll give you an example. Mary, a client of mine, her mom owns a triplex down in central Austin. The tax assessor's value went from $460,000 to $630,000 in 1 year. That's outrageous. You know what it actually done? It's forced her to sell the property because she can't afford it anymore. She's on limited income, so now the taxes are eating her alive. But of course, she has the right to protest those taxes, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is how you can get it. There's two sides to the property tax valuation, and everybody seems to focus on their value, right? To get the value down when you protest with a tax assessor. But there's very little known that very few people show up is when they set the tax rate. So I encourage you as being part of the community, around August, September, there will be a public announcement saying that they are going to announce with how they're going to do the rate, right? So it's the tax rate right here is like low, it's like 2.6 or whatever. Some areas are 2.8, 3.0, 3.1. So nobody fights the tax rate, and that's kind of a shame. They should fight. You should protest the tax rate because the tax assessors are only allowed to collect so much. We don't want to pay more than our fair share, or actually want to pay less than our fair share of taxes, right? It's the biggest debt that you'll ever have in your entire lifetime is the money that you're going to pay in taxes and to the IRS. So I'm going to show you some secrets, a lot of ways for you to put you in a much more empowered position to be able to not pay as much as you need that they want you to pay. We do already, we have some of the highest taxes in the entire nation, as you all know from California is 1.25, and here we are average around 2.6, 2.7.
Can you fight it even if it's a mud?
Doesn't matter. The mud doesn't. It doesn't matter. The mud doesn't. A municipal utility district usually are going to end up paying higher taxes until they get annexed into the city. But we're going to cover a lot of cool stuff that you really need to know. Now, let's start with important dates to remember. All right? The important dates to remember are January 1st and May 15th. Okay? January 1st is the day that the tax assessor, I'll write that down so we have it here. January 1 and May 15th. Okay? January 1 is the date that the tax assessor will value your property. In other words, it's as of January 1st, 2018 is what they're giving you the value on that date. And this is how we're going to get how we're going to be able to fight and protest when we get to the comp side of things. May 15th is the new deadline. It used to be May 30th. It just changed this year. May 15th is the deadline to file your protest. Everybody who owns property in our county got one of these, or going to get one of these. This is your property value notice of protest, and we're going to cover some of the stuff on this. You can also now protest online. All right. So, oh yeah, let's talk about the protest form. There's a lot of things on here that you need to look at, because, for instance, I just bought a couple houses up in Bell County last year, and they have the address of the property as not my mailing address. So I'm not going to get my notice. It's going to go to the tenants. So I'm going to, there's a place here to change your address. In other words, here, change your mailing address. Make sure you check the tax records and that your mailing address is right, or you'll never have a chance to protest. On the form, another important thing is in this case, this has changed since last year, but they have these boxes that you can check off, and that when we're protesting our taxes, our taxable value, you want to do number 1 and number 2. It's incorrect appraisal market value, and it says number 2 is value is unequal compared with other properties. And this is how we're going to leverage being able to get our values down. But if you don't check any of these boxes, you will not get a protest, a hearing. So, and it says it right on there. So you need to check the boxes. Please send this notice, certified return receipt requested. I sent it in along with all my other, I have multiple properties in this county, and I sent it in, and I did what I was supposed to do, and I get to the property tax protest. I'm going, well, what about this one property that I have in Avery Ranch? They go, we don't have any notice on that. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm like, wait a minute. I sent it in with all the other ones in the same envelope. It's like, they go, well, we didn't get it. So do it with a certified return receipt. Otherwise, the tax guy can say, we didn't get it. Or you can do it online now. You can file this form online and make sure you get an email back that says, we got your formal protest, or your notice to protest. Okay?
Is there any benefit to doing it one way or the other? Or?
Just as long as you've got proof that it's been receipted. A lot of people are let us do things online these days, so, but make sure that you get that return. I sent off a huge check to the federal government on April 13th, and I pushed send, and I go, did I really check that URL? Was that really the IRS? It was like, I never got an email back that said I paid it. Well, I did go to my bank, and they did show that it was withdrawn from the IRS, but I was like, why didn't I get an email back from the IRS on my tax day? Okay, so the form, is there anything else? There's a lot of good information on this form if you read it all the way through, and some of the stuff we're going to be covering. But, okay, this particular property, my property went from 294 to 325 in 1 year. Well, okay, I beg to differ on that with the tax assessor. They actually, from 294 to 325, last year they did assess it at 320, just under 325, and I got them down to 294. So look at that. And also, what we've really seen some really huge increases is in land value. That's what happened to the lady with the triplex. Land value went through the roof, not the value of the building. So you can also protest the land value. Those are kind of the analyze, or at least when you state your cases, there's no way my land value tripled in the last year, right? So compare what happened last year to this year. Also, they're going to determine when you're going to the, well, we'll get into comps. Let's see if there's anything more in here that's important. There's 2 pages of fine print that's worth reading. Okay. Yeah. So here's your form. Make sure you do it. Now, when do you send it? When do you send it? You send it on May 14th, the day before the deadline, or on the deadline. Certified return receipt that day. Why? Some of you have already filed it, I know, right? And you already sent it in. Okay, the reason is the first ones that come out on the protest, when you, like the people that protest as soon as they got it, are the first people that are going to get a hearing, and the first guy out of the foxhole gets shot. And that's the bottom line is they're going to come with guns loaded, appraisals in hand, and everything. By the time you get to May 15th, and you're in July for your hearing, they've gotten beat up. They've had other comps presented to them. You want to be late you want to be the last one to protest, because by that time they're tired, they're beat up, and they've got a lot more information that they didn't have See, the assessor, believe it or not, does not have access to the MLS, to the Board of Realtors. It's crazy. I go, why aren't you, so they don't have access to the actual closed comps, comparable properties. Another thing you want to do, if you buy a property, and I'm sure you've gotten it, the county will send you a really nice looking official form saying, welcome to our county. Tell us what you paid for your house. You got one. I got one. And guess what? You can just throw that piece of paper away. Texas is a non-disclosure state. You don't have to disclose what you paid for your property. If you disclose what you paid for your property, they know you just kind of threw your cards off on the deck. So you look on it, you look closely, you don't have to send that form in. So that's after you buy a new property or any property. You're gonna get that form that says how much did you pay for the property, and you don't have to. All right. So how many bought new homes this year? Congratulations. I bought 2. Comps. Comps are really going to be, the comps are what we call comparable properties, and this is what you're going to be taking with you. And this is something we can provide you as a real estate broker. We have access to the MLS. Only 2 people have access to the MLS: appraisers and real estate agents, brokers. So the tax assessor does not have access to it. In Williamson County, your protest, just so you have it, is or anything having to do with the appraisal district is WCAD.org. Okay. We had somebody request because they're out of state. They have a property here, and they asked me, "What if I'm out of state?" You can still send your protest form in. If you can't make it to your formal hearing, then you can do an affidavit of why you think the value of your home is where it's supposed to be. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so back to comps. If you bought it this year, if the appraisal comes in anything higher than you paid for it, you can simply present them with the closing statement showing this is what I paid for it, this is what it's worth, what a willing buyer and a willing seller are willing to exchange for the property, right? That's what value is. So if it's any higher, present that protest. If it's any lower, don't protest. I get people that have like this ego, like, well, my value of property is worth way more than that, and they go protest it, and then they go, well, what did you pay for it? And they actually shot themselves in the foot. We want to make our properties look like the most beat up slum properties to the tax assessor compared to all the other properties. All right. The county the tax assessor will also give you the comparable properties that they're using to compare your property to. And you can get them online now. So you can go and you look on your property and you can say, which properties did you use? All right. So let's get more into this whole thing with what this is. This is actually an appraisal. It's an appraisal. They come out and they've tried to determine what the value of your fair market value of the property is. And sometimes they're completely wrong. I mean, they could be off as much as 10 or 15%. That's why we don't like using Zillow to our estimates and values, because they use the tax assessors. That's the only record they have. The only public record they have is what the tax assessor came in at. So don't use Zillow because it's inaccurate, and they're not even going to look at the comps from Zillow. There is no comps in Zillow. They do some sneaky things though. The assessor, they do go to Redfin, and I think there are sold comps in Redfin. And so they can get some of it. So I went there. I've got really insider knowledge. You got to think about it. I've been here for selling real estate for 25 years. One of the top guys in Williamson County. I know every street. I sold 250 homes in Avery Ranch alone. So I know every street. I know what these neighborhoods, why they can't compare that neighborhood with this neighborhood, or even that street with this street. For instance, in my own neighborhood, we have the more expensive, wider lots that Scott Felder built on when I bought it back in '98, and then across the way, we call it across the ditch because there's a creek that runs through, is a smaller lots and smaller homes at lesser value. And so a lot of times they won't want to compare the larger lots to the smaller lots. Some of the other things are kind of things that they try to compare is they don't like comparing 1 stories to 2 stories. They feel 1 stories have more value than 2 stories for whatever reason. I don't know. I can argue that one. All right, so taking a look at your property on January 1st, the value of that property, what does it look like? What you want to do is on January 1st, it's too late now, but you can still do this, is take a gloomy day like this, fog and weed, you could let your lawn grow up and let the weeds, put a couple of trash cans out on the front, maybe a beat up couch or something on the front yard, you know, I mean, and take a picture of it, the time stamped. If you need to, get a newspaper of that January 1st and take a picture of it with the house in the background, because I'll tell you what happened with one of my other properties. And you want to make it look as like the ugliest property in the neighborhood. And to take that picture on January 1st or thereabouts, right in that time frame. And then you're going to look at the comps, which are the ones that they're pulling, and you're going to go out on a beautiful spring day with blue skies and puffy white clouds going by, and this house has just had its lawn mowed, and you're going to take a picture of those houses, and then when you go to the tax assessor, you're going to say, how could you compare this dump of a house that I own to these beautiful properties over here? So another thing that they're going to do is they're going to look at what is the what's the condition. There's 4 levels of condition of the property. Okay, and this is hideous. I can't believe they did this to me. I was driving down the freeway. My wife called up and says, "Hey, honey, the tax assessor's here. He says he saw a new deck in the backyard in the satellite map." And I'm like, okay. He wants to go measure the deck. Is that okay? Well, guess what he was doing? I said, okay, go ahead. Let him. Guess what he did? He was looking I just had it remodeled. It looks like this. When I bought it, it had wallpaper and had all, it had vinyl floors and all this. And I did $80,000 renovation on the property. And he's looking in my windows. He's looking at my freaking windows, and he sees my quality of my property went from a 2 to a 4, which affects how they compare properties. Because if you take a property that has vinyl floors and laminate countertops, and they're trying to compare the beautiful house down the street with yours, you have an argument. So for instance, what happened with my Avery Ranch house, this really gets me. That's why I'm teaching this class, so we can beat up on the assessor. So what they did in the Avery Ranch house, it's a rental, right? So it has vinyl floors, it has older cabinets, not the kind that's in style anymore, and it has laminate countertops. And I've used this before. I said to the assessor, I said, look, you're comparing my house to all these new D.R. Horton houses. I've got stainless steel and granite and all this other stuff and travertine floors. And you're comparing my dump, which has laminate countertops and it's worked every time. But this one last year, the tax assessor goes, how do I know you haven't fixed it up? I go, are you calling me a liar? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like, he goes, how do I know you didn't fix it up? And I was like, so what I did is I had the tenants take a picture of it and send it to me. So that's how you do it. You take a picture of the house showing that it's not fixed up. And so yeah, don't tell them about all the great things you've done to your house, because there's none of their business. Remember, non-disclosure state. Okay, so try to keep that down. So they're going to compare your property to the other properties that they've pulled, and then there are other properties that they don't have or didn't know of that are in the MLS as sold sales. And so with those sold sales, I have access to them. And actually it was interesting because when I took my sales comps in there, some of them I stuffed away because they were higher than I wanted. The other ones, of course, the tax assessor hates it when you come in with all the lowest comps in the neighborhood, and that's all you're presenting. I mean, that doesn't, it's not fair, right? And they're not going to bite off on that. But I knew that there was properties that they didn't have listed in there, and they took those listings and they go, thank you, I needed that information. So they used it for later on for other people. So once you give them the information, they can use it from now on in the future. So what are these time frames of these closings? It used to be that the closings for the January 1st value were 3 months before the end of January and 3 months after the beginning of January. In other words, January 1st, 3 months back, January 1st, 3 months forward. In other words, till March 31st, 2018. So, and the reason is that that's trying to get the comparable sales that were sold and closed right in the last quarter, but also some of those properties may have sold in December but didn't close till February. So it still indicates value. So that's why they do the 3 months forward and 3 months back. Now they're doing some stuff that's really wonky, is they may even go back a year. They may even go back to March of last year. And then they take that value and simply add the appreciation rate. So they take it, well, you paid $200,000 for it, but you know values have gone up 8% this year, so we're going to divide the 12 months by 8% and blah, 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 and we're going to take that value and add a certain percentage to come up with our value. So sometimes they'll use all the way back the whole entire year, which I think is bogus. They won't want to use foreclosures. You can't use the foreclosure short sales, not that we have a whole lot of that going on. But yeah, they don't want to use those because they're what's called a non-arm's length transaction. They don't want to use new homes against new homes, but I think that's unfair too. In other words, somebody bought a new home right here in this neighborhood, and they want to use comps within the neighborhood, but there hasn't been any resales. So if there is no comps that are close by, then they're going to use new homes as well, and they'll try to get the new home information from the new home builder. You don't want to compare this neighborhood with Paloma Lake. You know, you want to make sure that we compare within the neighborhood the other homes. You want to compare close in size within 100 or 200 square feet. That's those comps that you're looking for, and there's adjustments that you can make for coming up with value or lowering in value. So the comps, they give you their comps, we bring in our comps. This is what we call, this is in the informal hearing of what we're talking about. And we'll go to that in a second. So another thing you want to make sure is that you filed your exemptions. Everybody that's bought a home here that lives in it can file the homestead exemption. You all got to have your homestead exemption, and people miss out on that. Three things: it reduces your taxes, okay, and it also caps the value increase. Remember I told you that triplex lady had her valuation go up about 30%? Well, if it was her primary residence, it could only go up 10% if it was homesteaded. So you want to file your homestead exemption, and that should have already been done. Right? You can do it online now, which is kind of nice. You get the homestead exemption form done.
Not up in Bell County though.
No, that's the Wild Wild West. So, but yes, sir.
So if it go up 30% in 1 year, so then really, unless it comes down, you kind of can anticipate 10, 10, 10, right? Is that how it kind of works?
Well, remember, markets, so values going up, for the big people on the video, about the value going up 30% in 1 year, and then, so there's two values. There's the capped value and then the market value. And yes, but then next year, they're gonna look at them, reevaluate it, and that might value, okay, in a recession, that value could come down. Right now, in the last 5-7 years, it's always gone up. And so you end up your taxable could cap out 10% every year. So
after 10 years, essentially your home taxes could double.
Can I get a glass of water? Oh, it's right here. Great. Okay, thank you.
So essentially, within a 10-year period, if it were to assume your house were to double, your actually taxes could double. Is that kind of how that works?
Yep. Yeah, and unfortunately, fortunately you have a 10% cap. That's
right.
Better than nothing, right? But unfortunately, if it's a rental property, there is no cap.
Whoa.
Right.
I didn't know that.
They can bounce it to the, just like the lady's triplex. Went from 460 to 630.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I got an important question.
Yeah.
Do you know if we're taxed on the inside livable space or the outside space? Good
question. I didn't even have that on my line. So you want to make sure that the tax assessor has the proper square footage of your house. And because I'll tell you an example happened over in Terra Vista. The guy had a house and he had a 4-car garage. But the tax assessor assumed that when they came out and measured it on the foundation, that fourth bay was a part of living space. All this time he was being taxed on 3,400 square feet, and when I went to list the property, I listed it 3,400 square feet. We get the appraisal done, and they had blown it, and it was to now 3,000 square feet, and that was rather a big slap in the face. I don't measure houses. I don't even know how. But here's a good thing: you can have an appraiser measure it, or you can get the tax assessor to come out and measure it.
Yeah, they said they measured it, and they said that's the measurement they got on it. But I have a feeling the guy didn't know what he was talking about, because I had them send me the real measurements of the livable space, and I scheduled my protest.
Yeah, so if they're off on square footage, it happens in certain neighborhoods like Avery Ranch. The same model Cortez plan can be off by several hundred feet either way, and I know because I own one. It's 2120 square feet, and I see it all the time. And so that's when also when I'm doing my comps, I said, look, this is what you're looking for in comps is model match. Exact floor plan, exact, if you can get those, that exact finish out if you can, that's what's best for value is what we call a model match. So in Josh's neighborhood, your model match down the street, what did they finally sell that house for? Almost 600?
Way unbelievably, like 619 or something.
Wow, okay.
Like, wow.
So it's exact same floor plan, but it has a pool, and so you can just down for the pool, but appraisers don't usually, that's not going to help your value. I mean, it's not going to help you. It's going to help your value, great, but it's not going to help your protest if they use that same house. Yeah.
And the next thing that happened in our house too is we have an open area, and they thought it was, one of the floor plans has it closed off, so it's not open. And so they were charging us 500 additional square feet for that. And they measured the outside of the brick on ours. So we disputed it and we got it down. However, we never got the refund for all that we had paid because we didn't have it correct.
So yeah, you should have got a refund.
Really?
Yeah.
They said they weren't going to give us anything.
So what happened? What we're talking about is that you see there's a distance between the inside of the house and the outside of the house, which includes the brick ledge. It's about this much, right?
Right.
And your house is 5,000 square feet. When you go all the way around the house, that's a lot of square footage. So we want to measure it as air-conditioned space. It's the space.
Had you there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so what you can do is hire an appraiser to measure. It costs about $100. Usually 150. You don't have to get a full appraisal done, but you can get them to come measure it, and then they'll do a rendering. But you want to make sure those square footages match what they're saying, because that's a big deal. Because a lot of it's price per square foot. They love using price per square foot too. I don't like using price per square foot unless you're using model matches, because the larger the house is, the lower the price per square foot, right? And naturally. They use it all the time as leverage, but I beg to differ. I'd rather, because in other words, if they're using $160 a square foot and you happen to have a 10 by 10 closet, 100 square feet more, is that really $16,000 more in value if you took that 160 times 100 square feet? No, it's not. So it's maybe a couple hundred. So yeah, don't offer the improvements that you've done. Let them try to figure it out, or like in my case, they came and knocked on the door. Yeah.
So I moved from Guadalupe County to Bell County, and I'm renting out my house in Guadalupe County. So by moving my homestead to Bell County, do I leave myself vulnerable to I guess an uncapped property tax increase down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as you get the investment properties, if it's not your homestead, you don't get any relief. So you're only it's 10% on a homestead. It's unlimited on rental property. Now there's ways to move your homestead cross county, and that's what some people do. They move their homesteads back and forth. I had I'm buying a second home up in Bell County, and I could move my homestead back and forth if I wanted to. But it's.
I could move it back and forth between those.
But you have to actually do that. You have to actually live there, and then you get the benefits of that cap. So there's the over 65 exemption. Anybody getting close? No? Okay. Oh, Sue?
I'm getting close.
All right. All right. Okay. Too much information. I'm sorry.
You asked.
All right. So over 65 exemption will freeze the school taxes. Anybody a veteran? Anybody a disabled veteran? Is anybody 100% disabled?
I'm not. Is it 30%, 50? What is it?
There's different, I'm sorry I don't have all the numbers, but there's different breakdowns. The higher you go in disability, the more you can get an exemption. It's not a whole lot.
Something.
It's not a whole lot. It's like $18,000 off value, but hey, it's That's,
Take it.
yeah, couple $100.
What if you have co-borrowers? Like, I bought my house with my dad, so he's gonna be getting close to 65, would that still apply?
Yeah, if he resides in it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're over 65 and you're living in any either spouse or, you know, as long as the resident is living there that owns the property, is 65 or older, you can use that. Yes, sir.
Do you have to take the exemption to the protest?
No, you file the exemption online, or there's a form that you get, usually your title company will give it to you at closing, but you can go online and download the form if you want, or just, in Williamson County, you can file the exemption online. So if you haven't done that and you bought your house, you definitely want to file your exemption. And there's a time
Email you
limit.
or something, and you can send it out to us, maybe?
Yeah, so I'll send you all the links that I have. And does anybody not live in Williamson County? Okay, so now we're talking Travis County, Bell County? Travis County, traviscad.org. I don't think they're online yet. So, anybody?
What's the cap at 65 age?
It means your school taxes will never go higher than they are at that age. Yeah, so it's a freeze, yeah. Anybody has questions on exemptions? Nobody's an ag exempt yet, right?
We're not a cow.
Any
You
cow?
get a thing in the mail saying they'll file exemptions for you for $40, don't do it.
Yeah, it's free to file the exemption. So as Sue said, I got one. It's $39.95 to file your exemption for you. We'll take care of it for you, and it's just a kind of a scam. It's kind of pretty creative,
And then
actually.
they don't do it.
Yeah, then they don't do it. Then they don't. Well, that'd be kind of a bummer. Any more? Okay, yeah, actually, the exemptions are a big deal, especially for disabled vets. And we had one young lady who's now working part-time for us who didn't know. She is a 100% disabled vet.
Wow.
She doesn't pay property taxes in the state of Texas. Her payment, she has a 2,200 square foot house, her payments are $730 a month. She didn't know what she didn't know until she came to our class. So as you might not know, I teach a lot of different types of classes, but one of our pinnacles is a home buying crash course that we have every Saturday somewhere usually. And that's a really cool course. If anybody hasn't bought a home or is going to think about buying their next home, the home buying crash course is really, really good. Okay, exemptions. Okay, now we're going to talk about where the rubber meets the road. Informal hearing. That's when you file this form, they're going to send you back a date that says, here's your date for your informal hearing, and you got to go down to the Williamson County Appraisal District. Okay, if that date doesn't work with you because you're going to be on vacation or whatever, you can ask them to change the date. And for those that own multiple properties, I like to call them up and say, look, I'd like to do all of my properties on that same day. Otherwise, you're going to get multiple days, and you can do it all on one day. So this is my own personal take on this: is you don't want to go to a formal hearing. This is where you want to, because you're going to get eaten alive at the formal hearing. Formal hearing, those guys are sitting behind the desk. They're bored as heck. They're not appraisers. They don't even want to be there, and they're just going to kick you out. So this is where you want to make your case, is the informal hearing. And so you're going to get a date and time, and you go there. I like to see if I can get time right after lunch, because then they're all carved up and feeling good and everything, So you want to be nice, and but you want to be firm, and you want to be, don't get upset. I can't believe these guys. That's why I could hear them in the other stalls screaming at the guy, and it's like, you're not helping your case here. Be nice to be nice to them, and everything, because they have a hard job as it is. And there is a police officer with a gun around the corner, so you want to make sure that you're nice. Be nice and catch them on a good day, and really, when you're presenting your case, you let them present their stuff first. This is what we came up with, this is how we came up with it. And go, I don't quite agree with these 3 listings that you've got. And I've got these 2 listings along with the other ones that I also have that are not on your list. And they're better, they're closer comparable to the house that I have. So sometimes they'll knock off, okay, we'll knock this one off, and then we'll knock this one off, and then we'll take these 2 and plug them in. And so if you have knowledge about the condition of the property and everything else, and of course you've got your picture of your beat up old couch in the front yard, January 1st, soggy day photograph, right? And you've got the beautiful pictures of the other houses. So you go, look, my house doesn't no way compare to this property. And so my suggestion is, when you're at the formal hearing, is he who speaks first loses. So answer them with silence when it's just like, don't think so. Don't think, I'm not making my case. And then they'll go, all right, okay, all right. How about this? All right, we'll take this one out and we'll move this around and then we'll just count these 3 instead and we'll say, okay, all right. And you just shake your head and you get to the point where, eventually you're gonna get to the point where they won't budge anymore. But if you start going, I've even had them look at other properties. If you're really nice to them, I had like 4 properties that they had to do in the same day. I knew that their value on the 4th property was not even, I wasn't even gonna win at all, so I didn't even protest it. He goes, hey, give me that 4th property, let me take a look at it. He did, and he knocked it down 10 grand, just because I was nice. So don't point out other things that they may not catch. Like I have a house that backs to the golf course. If they see that, they're gonna, well, 3 out of 4 times they didn't notice that it was backed up to the golf course. So, you know, that was able to win. And so, informal hearing is where you want to be, and you want to hopefully get past that. If you really do feel like they were really jerking with you on the informal hearing, you now can go to the formal hearing, and that's where they have a line of people that will drag you through the mud and kick you out for the most part. But I have seen people win at the informal hearing. All right, so I'm going to have this video available to everybody, plus also the links, the important links for you to be able to really win at the property tax protest. All right, so does anybody have any questions on property tax protest? Yes, sir.
Do you have any comments on people that do this for you?
Oh yeah, that's a good. So in this form here that you get is an option to have an agent do this for you, and that's also a good thing for those people that are out of state. Is you can authorize another agent to do it. The biggest one in town is called ProTax. It's mixed results. If you don't want to do it because you don't have the time and you're not an expert, definitely hire the ProTaxes or whoever that you feel comfortable with, and they take a percentage of the savings. So, you know, if you don't think you're going to win and you don't want to deal with this whole thing, then at least hire those guys, because if they don't get your taxes down, you don't pay them anything. Good question. Anybody else for property taxes?
You mentioned the comps pieces of looking at the other properties they're using. How do you get the information what other houses they're using for the comps for your property?
They give you they're online, or they'll send them to you. Here's yeah. If you ask them, they'll send you. Okay, here's the 5 houses we're using. Or in Williamson County, it's online. It might be online on Travis too. But yeah, good question.
How do you pick an alternative property, Ken, but to combat where the properties they may be using against us?
That's us. We provide those for you. So we'll provide comps for you if you want. Does everybody have my card? I guess I don't know my cards. Well, if we've got all your emails and we can read your writing, we'll get you information that if you want comps on your house, well, it takes us 10 minutes to do that. So we'll do that for you. So yeah.
Do you get the appraisal on the same year that you close? Like if you close in 2018, do you get an appraisal?
Yeah.
Because I haven't gotten one.
Well, okay, so that's another good thing. When you buy, this is really good for y'all that bought houses. If you bought a house that hadn't been started, in other words, land, and they just started it, when on January 1st, you closed in June, and the house is finished, you get a real nice free ride on taxes, because it's going to be considered land value. But you also might get a huge surprise when they come back and reassess the value of the property sometime in middle of this year, and they go, oh, wow, we went from unimproved taxes, that's why your payment was so low, now to improved taxes, and you owe us another $5,000. So either you're going to pay an extra couple $100s a month to catch up, or we'd like you to send us a check for $5 grand. This is a real big problem, because, and I know the title companies are pretty good at informing people about that, but you don't want to forget that, because all of a sudden you're going to get hit with this. I've seen people, they're very qualified for the house as it was, and now they got this huge $300 or $400 additional payment, and it actually can get them into financial trouble. It's kind of
Lenore
scary.
does it a little bit differently, because we take the 2.63, so the buyer's overpaying taxes the minute that they close. So we actually, you know, there's different times of year where we escrow more than 3 months of property tax. Sometimes it's 4 or 5, depending on the month.
That's a good service, and it's nice because you get a nice little refund check somewhere down the line that you weren't expecting. So, yeah, I would, if not, then at least set aside that extra money for that if you're on unimproved taxes. So, you know, a lot of surprises on that when you when you get
And
that.
just a quick question for outside of Lennar purchasing. If someone were to purchase in that situation, because they have a program, it sounds like, set up to help the homeowner. If you bought a house in June, could they prorate you for the year before? If the house finished in June, you started your building, your house finishes in June, or they don't come back, normally come back?
They don't go
prorated.
They don't prorate. They don't prorate it. Oh, well, they have the right to, but they don't.
Oh.
But they don't. In other words, they could say it's been June and you had this house. I've never heard them come back and do that. And oh, that's another thing. You have to be careful when you sell your house. When you sell your house and they've collected taxes, right, to pay the taxes, you got to make sure, especially if the person was over 65, his taxes are way low, and then all of a sudden that over 65 exemption leaves as soon as the guy moves, and now you're stuck with a jump in taxes that you weren't expecting. And also in your closing statement, and this is really important in the highly appreciating years that we're having here, is that they will estimate, of course, they're going to estimate the taxes, the title company is, and you want to look at your closing statement when you closed and make sure that you paid your the true prorated share of taxes to the day you closed of what actually was paid on the tax bill. Because they're just guesstimating, they're usually pretty close, but they're guesstimating that you owe this much taxes and then the new buyer will own this much taxes to the end of the year.
Is it on the closing state or the closing?
Yeah, if they have the actual taxes like in November, then they'll pay them and you're good, you're probably okay. Because it's already, those are the true real taxes. Oh, some more dates to remember on that is property taxes are calculated in April. The tax rate is set around September timeframe. It's due in November and it's delinquent after January 31st. So as for those people also bought new homes on your closing statement, you had prorated taxes, maybe they're pretty low, but if they're not, it doesn't matter to make sure you put those into your IRS forms, because the prorated taxes are, I don't think you get a 1098 for that. So you got to make sure you give your CPA your closing statement, because there's not only your taxes, but there's also closing costs that are paid that are also a percentage of those are tax deductible. This is a big deal. This is worth the price to come into this class. If you don't take the deduction, how much does Lennar pay for closing costs?
We pay almost 4%.
Okay, so
we pay loan origination fee, owner's title policy, and 2%.
The loan origination fee, I'm almost 100% positive. That's why I've got my little disclaimer. I'm not a CPA. Ask your CPA, but the origination fee is tax deductible in the year that you purchased the home, even if the seller paid it. Because you still paid it from the sales price of the home, technically. So then there might be other fees in there, and that's why I'll look that up. I didn't want to bug my CPA after April 5th, April 17th, but I do need to find out what fees are now deductible, because the way they do the closing disclosures is they all lump all the fees now in as one big origination fee. I'm not sure if all that is 100% deductible. Okay, has that been helpful?
Also, they bought points on their closing statement.
Yep.
They bought points to lower your rate. It also would be tax deductible.
Yep, points are tax deductible. Okay, those 100% disabled vets, if you know any, let me know and we'll get them into a house. Okay. All right, so hopefully that's been good. PropertyTaxProtest.org will be linked, once I get this video done, will be linked to to this video. So you can share it with your friends or whatever. Comps, if you need comps, you can get a hold of us. Let me give you my email address and my phone number. And Sue probably has, do we have our boxes?
We did,
I got 4 or 5 in the car.
Good.
So.
Yes.
So, but I have my cards over there. So it's Ken with 2 N's at buyaustin.com. And you can call or text me at 512-423-5626. Okay, so we've saved you a lot on taxes today, but now we're going to talk about how tax shelters. Talk about how people get rich with real estate investing. This is more fun. I hate paperwork. Buying houses I love. So I just, for instance, I bought a house up in Temple, Texas, a brand new 2,200 square foot house for $181,000. It assessed it appraised by the mortgage appraiser for $220,000. So that's probably definitely going to be an issue when the comps come out with Bell County, that they're going to say, no way did you buy it. So I just got a great deal. So nothing against that. But that's why you really want to make sure that your address is right, and so that you get those statements when they come out. Okay.